loyalty pledge. Your boy, you see next how that mag and shoddy work. Can't rid this smell with bath and body works. It's sad and probably worse. First, the chroma spit. Wise guys do drive-bys and don't own a whip. Time come, divine sons need a song to rip. Thugs in harmony, cool, I got a bone to pick.
Vlogs, battles, music videos, interviews, and much more. Pushing the culture forward. No Mercy TV.
Yo, what's good, y'all? No Mercy. Trap New York shit, NoMercyTV.com. You know what time it is. Yeah, he taking one of his little early morning naps, you feel what I'm saying? But, listen, man. I was on Twitter today, and a video came across my timeline. And, it was basically a podcast that, Esso and Hynaken and Spaceghost, formerly, I guess you could say, of my expert opinion, and them basically discussing why they're not on the show anymore. Now, one thing about me, right, I'm not really in tune with the guys in terms of social media wise, right? Like, I watch, the episodes of the show, I watch the clips that come out, but, they kind of don't always put stuff out in like a certain order. So I don't know when it's, episodes that they might be missing from or whatever the case is. Like, I'm just tuning into the show, watching, whatever's going on. But from what they're saying on, this podcast is called Bag Fuel, right? They're basically talking about how Math, still owes them money. He's breaching contracts. They were trying to make it right. They were supposed to be going to a dinner. These guys are on the West Side Highway driving down to whatever dinner spot they were going to. And then Math, was on some he's not showing up type shit. You feel me? So, Math, you got to make this right. You got to make this right, because I'm going to tell you like this. It's not going to be a good look that every time your show is about to elevate, your cast is changing. So you first had Knowledge and Misfit on the show, and then once they left, the show elevated, and then you wind up with a new cast. Now you got Spaceghost, Hynaken. Well, you already had Spaceghost when Knowledge and Misfit was on, but then they leave. Then you get Hynaken, you get Esso, and I was already familiar with Hynaken from the This Is 50 days. That's where I originally knew him from. So I know he's one of those people that, he's respected in media. He knows how to do interviews, et cetera, et cetera. So these guys bring a certain level of, traction to the channel, and they even breaking it down numbers wise. Like, when Esso and Hynaken got on the show, Math was at like 260,000 subscribers, and now he's at like 6, 7, or something like that. So they essentially doubled, damn near tripled your numbers. So if you got, when what they saying is a deal from Revolt for $2.7 million, this is what they saying on the show. I haven't seen nothing about it. I don't know if it's true, but this is what they're saying on the podcast. Basically, Math got a $2.7 million Revolt deal, and I guess maybe he's not trying to pay them or whatever the case is. So this is going to look crazy, because for one, Esso is already saying they were already doing contracts and stuff like that, Math breaching contracts, et cetera, et cetera. You can't take these episodes to Revolt and use that man's likeness knowing that y'all still got business that, didn't get settled, because once those episodes air, that man could basically sue y'all, sue the company, sue Revolt, et cetera, based on the agreements that y'all two had. So this is something that's going to have to get straightened out. Niggas are going to have to get paid, et cetera, et cetera. The only thing I don't like about this podcast is that the way they're carrying the conversation, they're not really breaking down, like, how when it's a story, let's say, okay, the story is Spaceghost, Hynaken, and Esso leave my expert opinion, right? Or stop rocking with it, whatever the case is, get fired, whatever. You want to kind of tell it in like a story format. It's kind of like bouncing around a little bit. It's bouncing around with the details, general conversation. It's a lot, of stuff that's being talked about. and you're not really getting like a clear-cut story as to what happened. Like, you're getting all the details, or most of the details, but you're not getting, niggas like details and timestamps and when exactly, certain conversations happen and stuff like that. Like, that's how you tell a story. You feel me? So, I wish they would have told it basically with more structure, but what the gist of it is basically that, Math owes them money. I think one of the episodes, I think it was like the Rich Homie Quan episode, he called Hynaken, told him he didn't need him for the episode, whatever the case was. But this is something that I think needs to be made right, because Hynaken and Esso definitely add a dope element to the show in terms of, being outspoken, challenging the artist with certain questions and things of that nature. That's something that makes the show hot. You can't just do that with anybody. You feel me? So, and if you watch Joe Budden podcast, you'll see that what Joe is doing with Ice and Ish is nowhere near what he was doing with Rory and Mo. So, Math, you don't want to go down the same path, because Joe Budden's podcast is not the same anymore. Not at all. He's starting to, get a little bit more traction than he was before, because now people, I guess, are adjusting, but it's not the same. And when you lose the elements that essentially got you lit, then it's only going to be downhill, So you might get a deal based off of the work you put in with these guys, but if you don't bring these guys on board, you're going to have that deal for whatever the year terms are, whether it's 2 years, 3 years. And if the show is not living up to the hype, you will not be getting another deal. So you got to think, when it comes to my expert opinion, it's never been just about Math. It's been about the conversation as a whole, the barbershop conversation as a whole. So it's more so the artist, and it's also the other people that, bring that energy. Like Math, he asks, dope questions. He adds a certain element to it as well. But one of the things that y'all seem to forget about these shows is that it's never a one-man band. It's never. It's the artist, it's the guests, it's the surrounding cast. It's everything that makes the show what it is, including when you have somebody like Spaceghost who's doing the editing, all of the YouTube stuff and shit like that. Like, that shit is basically a well-oiled machine. And you want to make sure that shit continues to function for as long as possible, especially if it's a good show. Like, business is something that can always, as long as you make it right, you're going to keep the personal relationships and keep the show the way that it's supposed to be. But if you can't, get your hands on the business aspect and keep that shit right, then you're just destined to fail. Like, if the 2.7 million thing is true, which I think that's a super low number for Math show. Like, should have got way more than that. You feel me? Like, I think Math should have got, because here's the thing, Rory and Maul, I think they deal was like 10 million. To me, my expert opinion is better than Rory and Maul show. So Math should have probably got 15, 20. But, considering this kind of his first situation, they're not going to pay out nothing crazy, but he should have at least got 10, But that's another thing too. Some people just jump at the first number, especially if it's a number that they've never had. Like, I'm pretty sure Math not gonna turn down no $3 million. You feel me? So, but I'm pretty sure he couldn't negotiate it more. But I just think that he's gonna lose, what he has with the show if he keeps on doing this musical chairs with the cast type shit. You feel what I'm saying? So I think Math definitely needs to, he got a YouTube channel. He blogs and goes live every once in a while. So I think he needs to do something addressing it, speaking on what happened. But ultimately needs to rectify the situation, and get the show, if you're going to do it on Revolt, get the show to what it was supposed to be. You feel me? So, and I'm a fan of Math, fan of what he's doing with the show. Definitely wish him all the success in the world. I think it's dope that he made a transition from battling to now he has a show where he don't have to battle ever again in life. But you also want to keep those things going. You don't want to have this one deal and then the show tanks and then you're back, trying to battle rap again. You feel what I'm saying? So that's just my thoughts on that. Let me know what y'all think in the comments, and I'll holla at y'all soon. No Mercy, Trap New York shit, NoMercyTV.com.